I'm looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking Friars here, episode 671. I am Ben Fadden. We got some news here. I wasn't thinking I was going to do a show here tonight, but we essentially know the opening day roster, so it made sense to do a show here. It's not live because it's about 10 o'clock at night, so it didn't really make sense for me to go live because there probably aren't going to be a ton of people that would tune in. So I just wanted to make sure everyone saw it on the YouTube side of things, so it is just a video. It's not a live stream. And then for the podcast, obviously, it's the same thing. So you're probably listening to this or watching this on Tuesday morning. But yeah, just to update you on what happened here today. Today was the Padres' final. I'm talking here on Monday, obviously. The Padres' final spring training game. Every regular got one at bat, and then Maldonado, I think, got a couple. Kolek started the game, and he ended up not making the roster. The Padres end up going with a rotation. We don't know the exact days yet, but a rotation of Michael King, Dylan Cease, Nick Pivetta. Pivetta starting Sunday, likely. That's when he's lined up for. Saturday, it will be either Randy Vasquez or Kyle Hart. Probably Vasquez because of where he's lined up. And then game 5 would probably be Kyle Hart. And I'm a little bit surprised by this because there was questions just from articles that I read going, through spring training. Kyle Hart, he dealt with the flu, so that kind of sidelined him for a little bit. And when you're competing for a starting rotation spot and something sidelines you for even a little bit like it did, I thought maybe that would hurt. And Kolek continue to build, continue to build up, and that would favor him. And he pitched well. He had a sub-3 ERA in Cactus League. And sometimes in Cactus League, you can get screwed by some balls because it's in Arizona, no, it's not at Chase Field. So sometimes there's sun balls, there's home runs that aren't home runs in big league ballparks. Like some things can happen, but Kolek, I thought, pitched pretty well. But it seems like the Padres thought that Kolek needs some more seasoning. And when you think about it, like it's surprising and not surprising. Surprising because I thought Kolek performed well, and I wasn't sure that Hart was going to be built up enough. But Kyle Hart, it does make sense because he has that starting experience. I know it wasn't in the big leagues recently, but it was he won the Cy Young. What is it? I think of it as like the Ding Dong Award. That's not what it's called, but it's a funny name that I made up for it just in my head. Like it's the Korean Cy Young, I think, or Japan Cy Young, wherever he pitched. So let's just call it the Ding Dong Award. He won that this past season. And so that's as a starting pitcher. And obviously Randy Vasquez, there's the familiarity there for the Padres because he made 20 plus starts for the Padres this past season. And if he's the, 4 starter, 5 starter, whatever you want to call it, it's not the end of the world. He can keep you into some games. Want to see more consistency, obviously. You want to see him limiting the walks, not, have to get out of a bunch of jams like he did this past year. But I can understand why they would want, hey, Kolek, get some more seasoning, get some more starts under you before we bring you up to the big leagues. And Kyle Hart, we know that you're a starter already. You're not transitioning into being a starter like Kolek. And Vasquez, you've been a starter. We saw you in the big leagues this past year. Let's go with you over Kolek as of now. So a little surprising, but not surprising at the same time, if that makes sense. And then the final bench spot is going to be Brandon Lockridge, not Tyler Wade, not Eggy Rosario. They will have to pass through waivers if the Padres are even going to keep those guys in the organization. And I don't expect them to. Schilt was talking about how tough of a conversation it was to have with Tyler Wade. I mean, he signed a major league contract worth like $900,000 in the offseason. Going into spring training, he was a slam dunk to make this roster. But then things happened. He struggled offensively in spring training, and it's spring training. For a guy that's a slam dunk going in to make the roster, should we put too much weight on what happened in spring training? But in the middle of spring training, the Padres then go sign Jose Iglesias. And when that happens, and he says he's not a minor leaguer, and Schilt, like within a week, essentially says, like, yeah, Iglesias is on the roster because they see him having a role on this team. Right there is when Tyler Wade should have known he was going to be in trouble. Because you look at this bench alignment, it's not 4 spots for a bench. It's 3 because you got to bake in the catcher, the backup catcher, excuse me. So Maldonado made it. Diaz makes it. Campy gets sent down. Connor Joe got sent down. And the other 3 spots, one goes to a platoon DH in Yuli Gurriel, which fans aren't very happy about, but he's going to have a short leash, I would think. So that could be the good news. Or he just shocks us all and, has this home run power. But yeah, Gurriel takes up a spot. So now not very many there. And Iglesias obviously makes it. Wade and Iglesias are kind of guys you can swap out. And especially you think of Wade. Well, Wade's faster than Iglesias been. But then you bring Lockridge on. He's fast. So there you go. And you have Iglesias who can play essentially anywhere on the infield. And then you got Lockridge who can play all 3 outfield spots. Is there a bunch of power in Brandon Lockridge's bat? No, but he performed really well in spring training. And so the Padres are rewarding that. I do credit the Padres for making the tough decision because they could have just sent Lockridge down. He had options. They could have sent him down. They could have had Iglesias be down because, they could have put him on the 40-man and then just sent him down, I think. And then Iglesias had opt-out dates, but they could have just waited to see if Eggy could prove himself because Eggy and Wade now are going to end up with other teams. I don't think that they're going to pass through waivers and that the Padres would just stick them in El Paso. I don't think that's going to happen. Other teams can use those guys, especially non-contending teams. You can pick up Eggy Rosario and play him and see what he can turn into. And Wade, I think I'm not, looking at rosters right now, but there's a contending team out there that wouldn't want Tyler Wade. What team, there's got to be a team out there that would take a guy that can play infield, outfield. He can pinch run for you. He's a good clubhouse guy. He's a major league vet for years and years and years. Played with the Yankees, played with the Padres. So, has that postseason, that pressurized experience. Who wouldn't want that if there's a spot out there available, So, yeah, I think both of those guys are gone. I wish him the best, obviously. Now, I guess the what's going to happen is the Giants are going to pick up Tyler Wade or the Dodgers are going to somehow find a way to have Tyler Wade on their bench, you know? And then we know what's going to happen when Tyler Wade plays the Padres, right? Or the Rockies will pick up Eggy Rosario and then he'll go off. Something like that will happen. Watch. But no, I wish them well in all seriousness. I love Tyler Wade. Seemed like a great clubhouse guy, and I thought he did bring value to the Padres. I know there are some fans that aren't the biggest fans of Tyler Wade, and they thought that Lockridge deserved it over Wade. And if we're talking about Cactus League play, yeah. But if we're talking about overall, has Brandon Lockridge earned it over Tyler Wade when Tyler Wade's been in the big leagues for this long? And he did help the Padres win games and get to that 93 win total this past season. You would say that Wade deserves it over Lockridge. What has Lockridge done at the big league level? But the Padres would come right back at you and be like, "Well, how many opportunities has Brandon Lockridge had?" And he just had a ton of at bats in spring training. You get what I'm saying? A ton for the amount of time that spring training is. And look what he did. He hit like over 340, I think, in that time. So we're going to reward that performance. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We can bring Tercer Ornelas up. I think Forrest Wall is down there. Oscar Gonzalez might, I think he can opt out, but he might be down there. So yeah, and that's another thing. They ended up going with Lockridge over Oscar Gonzalez. Who can give more to the Padres with the bat? Power wise, I think you can make the case for Oscar. But if Mike Schilt values the versatility and the little things in this game of baseball, and what can Lockridge do that Schilt likes? Play defense. He has the speed, and I'm not gonna. I can't question his uh, willingness to go all out. Like this guy's gonna go all out. He hustles. Schilt likes that. So I'm happy for Brandon Lockridge for sure. Little surprised that Lockridge made it, but we probably should have seen this as well. Like, when Iglesias, he's, weeks ago, we knew he was going to be on the roster. And then it's not like Wade was playing a bunch of outfield in spring training games. If that was the case, I would have been more surprised that Wade didn't make it. But it's not like he was playing outfield. Eggy at least was playing some outfield. They put Gavin Sheets in left field the other day. So from there, we, can slim down, shrink the realistic names to pretty much Eggy, Oscar, and Lockridge. And they ended up going with Lockridge, who tore it up in Cactus League play. Early on, maybe there were some mistakes, but after that, played really well. And so if we're going to have starting pitchers pitch their way onto a roster for Cactus League play, a position player definitely can play his way onto a roster because he gets way more playing time than a pitcher does because the pitcher has to be on the throwing program and he has to rest. He gets limited amount of time in those Cactus League stadium games where Lockridge can have a bunch of at-bats. He can have the backfield at-bats. You can only throw so much as a pitcher. So good for Brandon, good for Randy, good for Kyle Hart. And the good news is Kolek's still in the organization, obviously. Tirso's still down there. And for anyone that is like, oh, this bench, it's not very strong. Let's compare the Padres bench with other benches around the league. It's a bench for a reason. If Manny is going to hit, if Merrill is going to hit, remember, Manny is healthy. If he can hit you 35 bombs and Merrill can perform like he did this past season, maybe even better, and he may produce more because he's going to be in that 3 spot. Arise is healthy. Let's not forget that. He dealt with the thumb issue. Manny wasn't healthy that first half of the year, and obviously it showed in the second half he was an MVP. And Tatis can hit. And Bogarts, let's see him and Crony, what can they do? If they do their jobs, then we're not going to be worried about what the bench is doing. We're not going to be worried about maybe even the bottom of the order. Maybe some people will nitpick it, but this Padres team is going to go as far as the big guys at the top of that order, how far that they take them, right? You look at the best teams in baseball. Let's take the Phillies, for example, in 2022. Why did they make it to the World Series? Because their big guys hit. Bryce Harper came up with a huge homer. That was one game, but that was a huge moment, right? You look at the Dodgers. Yes, they had a ton of talent, but there were some guys, some of their big guys came through. One of them, Freddie Freeman, right? And in 2022, their big guys did not come through. And for the Padres, the big guys, Tatis did, but there are other guys in this lineup like Manny and Bogarts that can be better in the big moments. And so health is going to be a big factor, obviously, but the Padres have that elite talent to be a postseason team. And so let's not worry too much about this bench. Is it older? Yes, but that could be a good thing as well because there are guys that are experienced and know what they're doing and they can embrace that role that they're in. And instead of, coming in and maybe being overwhelmed a little bit by a moment because they haven't been there before. So that's how I'm looking at it right now. And this is optimistic, Ben, because, opening day is right around the corner. And why would I not be optimistic? So, yeah, I mean, if we want to go through what this roster is, because we pretty much know what the roster is going to look like, because there were some other moves as well. Um, Ron Marinaccio, he did not make it. That was a question. Where was it here? Ron Marinaccio, here it is. Option to AAA. Kevin AC, I was reading through his piece. That's why I was scrolling up for it, because he had some quotes from Brandon Lockridge, had some quotes from Mike Schilt. But Marinaccio, option to AAA. Seems like the final bullpen spot will go to longman Logan Gillespie, who, in my last opening day prediction, I had making the roster. Because, especially that last outing where he pitched a few innings, he can be a long man out of the bullpen. He had no options left. So I was like, all right, yep, there you go. That's the candidate. Because they weren't going to have, now Kolek, we know, didn't make it. They weren't going to have him go to the bullpen. They got to have him continue to make starts. That just sets the Padres up the best. And you don't want, with all due respect to Logan Gillespie, you don't want Logan Gillespie pitching very much. you know, it should be rotation, that starter, and then it should be your big guys. So this bullpen, 8 spots in the bullpen? It's Suarez, Estrada, Adam, Morahone, Matsui, Logan Gillespie, Alec Jacob, and who am I forgetting? Wandy, I think. That's 8. Then the rotation, it's King. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so hopefully I'm not forgetting anyone. King, Cease, Pavetta, Vasquez, and Kyle Hart. The Padres bench, it's Iglesias, Gurriel, Maldonado, and Lockridge. Sheets, I have him as the DH just because I'm trying to get through this roster here. Hayward in left, Tatis in center, Tatis in right, Merrill in center, Manny at third, Bogey at short, Crony at second, Arise at first, and then Diaz behind the plate. That's the roster. So overall, it's a team that I think, we'll see. Preller's always working. We'll see when the Padres get Darvish back. Obviously, that is big. Waldron with the oblique. They get those guys back and they can pitch well, then I think Padres fans will be in a much better headspace if you are worried about this team going into the season. And, right now, it's a contending team. And a lot of it's going to come down to the guys at the top of the rotation. Can they perform and put the Padres in a position to win every start or almost every start? The back end guys, 50-50. Can you keep the Padres in the game? And then in some starts, can you be a big reason why the Padres won the game? Like Vasquez was able to do in some of his starts this past year. The lineup, do your job. You're getting paid the big bucks. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, Back end of the bullpen, you have a lead, go win that game. Go seal that game. If the Padres, do those things and there aren't a bunch of winnable games that get lost, then they're going to be in a good spot. And they're going to be a postseason team. The health of Arise and Man not stated is going to be huge. Tatis as well. And then Bogey had an injury as well because he was starting to, get into the zone and then he gets hurt with the shoulder. So people can rip on this team and talk about the bench or talk about the bottom of the order or talk about the Bogarts contract and talk about the back of the rotation and the Darvish and Musgrove injury, the Waldron injury. But even with that, there's still talent on this team. And they're a top 10 lineup in baseball still. And they've got a pretty solid top 3 in the rotation. And then there's upside with the other guys. And they've got a pretty nasty back end of that bullpen. There's a lot of teams that would love to have that bullpen. So I'm optimistic going into this year. And am I saying that the Padres are going to go, knock off the Dodgers for the division? I'm not saying that. But I'm a Padres fan that is excited for this season. It's opening day is days away. I cannot wait to be in the building at Petco on Thursday, to have baseball every night back. and to be able to watch some studs that we have play the game that we love. So there you go. Rotation, roster essentially named. um, did I miss any more of the transactions for the Padres today? I probably should go through those. Padres released Efren Contreras. They released Colton Bender. They released Cole Roderier. No idea who that is. Option Tirsa Ornelas. Option Luis Camposano. DFA'd Brett Sullivan. That was on the 22nd, though. So these are older moves. Selected Mason McCoy to the 40-man. Sheets obviously makes it. So Musgrove on the 60-day. We already know that. Yeah, so these are older moves now. But yeah, that's what's happening there. I did want to read that Schilt quote just about how hard it was to make these decisions. Let's see. Talking about Tyler Wade here. That one was really hard, Schilt said. Not seeing him today was hard because he's got such a good energy and a way about him. He's a really good player, versatile player, and he's just a guy that has fit into our culture extremely well. It was a tough conversation for him, a tough conversation and decision for the organization. If there was a 27-man roster, I have a feeling Tyler Wade would be on it. And Brandon Lockridge played very well. He hit what the Padres wanted to see from Lockridge was him to hit, and he hit. And so he's on the roster because there's the other things, speed, defense, that are very valuable as well. The Padres already know he can do that. What they wanted to see, they saw. Is he going to hit 360 when he plays in games this year? Probably not. But if you want to reward someone for working their butt off and performing under pressure like he was under, maybe he didn't view it that way, but when you're trying to make a big league team on the opening day roster and you're a bubble player, yeah, between San Diego or El Paso, those are your options, and you can earn San Diego, there's some pressure there. And Lockridge, it seems like he went the pressure is a privilege route. Let's go. I'm built for this moment. And he went and won it. So I'm happy for him. I'd love to have Tyler Wade on the roster. But the thing is like a lot of guys were playing well and competing for these spots. And there's not very many. There's not 4, by the way. There was not 4 spots. There was not 3 spots because Gurriel was going to take one of them. There was really 2 spots. And are you going to go with 2 versatile infielders, or are you going to go and one of them being a guy that could play outfield but wasn't playing it a bunch, or would you go with a versatile infielder and a versatile outfielder? And the Padres went with the versatile infielder and a versatile outfielder, and Tyler Wade ends up not making it. So give me your thoughts in the comments here on YouTube on the Padres just opening day roster, because it's pretty much out there. Usually it's announced the morning. It will be by the team, I would think, like officially, but usually we know about it, like who makes it the morning of opening day, but it came early as the team is back in San. I would assume most of the team. Nick Pavetta's not because he has to stay back to pitch tomorrow, right? Yeah, on the minor league side, but pretty much the entire team I would think is back in San Diego and getting ready. Not a whole lot of time. They'll probably have tomorrow off, and then Wednesday a workout at Petco, I assume, and then Thursday it all gets started. Let's go. Can't wait. So that was really what I wanted to talk about on the show. Not going to be very long. I appreciate everyone for taking the time to watch or listen to this show. Much appreciated. And before I get out of here, shout out the great partners of the show, Gaglione Bros, Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. You can check them out. Link in the description for all of these great partners. They're inside Snapdragon Stadium. SDFC is back this weekend against LAFC, a rivalry that is going to be starting up. And that is going to be a loud crowd. That is going to be a very entertaining matchup. So can't wait for that. They're also Gaglione Bros, not just inside Snapdragon, but they're inside Petco Park, down the third baseline. So if you're there for opening day or there at all this season, this opening weekend, this opening homestand, go check them out. Garlic fries, cheesesteak fries, cheesesteaks. They've got a lot of great stuff there. So go check them out. Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztec shirts and sweatshirts. When Padres moments happen, they go make a shirt. So stay tuned for new shirts that'll come out this year. Underdog, coming up opening day, starting on opening day, and then every day during the year, there will be higher lowers of Padres games, other games in baseball. So, like, for example, Manny Machado, 1.5 total bases, higher, lower, stuff like that. So, you can make multiple picks. You can win a lot of money, and you'll get a first time 50% deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you sign up. Click that link, code Talking Friars, and the same code goes for SeatGeek. You'll get $20 off your SeatGeek order first time when you sign up with your email. So use that to your advantage as well. If you're going to try for an SDFC game or a Wave match or a Padres game, trying to help you out there, go use SeatGeek. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the time. Not a long show, but just wanted to give my thoughts on that. For anyone that's looking for my Magoon Guath reaction, by the way, him entering the transfer portal, which is not surprising, but my thoughts, you can find that on YouTube.